Good morning. I am Manushi Majumdar. I am a data science product engineer with ArcGIS Hub. I work out of the R&D center in DC, in the Arlington office. And this is my email, that's mmajumdar@esri.com, and my Twitter handle, manushi_m, if at all you need to follow up with me after this session. So basically, to get started with this session, the agenda for today is getting started with open data, understanding what open data, or as we now call it, Hub Basic is. Then we look at a few starter analysis with open data. That is, once you have open data, what kinds of analysis could be done with it? What do you do with it? And like the various ways of approaching data, looking at it, maybe categorizing it. So that is one thing we'll be looking at, and basically how Hub defines data and data categorization. We will then introduce initiative templates. If you have attended a couple of other sessions, maybe you know what initiative templates are, but we will take a good look at them now from the perspective of doing urban analytics. We'll also take a good look at Hub's Python API. We'll introduce that and some functionality that it supports. We'll also then look how we can use initiative templates and Hub's Python API and open data to then drive urban analytics within Hub. And then we look at the future road ahead or the plans for the next few months with urban analytics in Hub. So, getting started with open data. How many of us have open data sites here? Okay, I'd like to go ahead with this particular example that I personally use a lot. It's Open Data DC, that's DC's Open Data website, DC's Open Data portal. What they've done here is they've used Hub's open data or Hub Basic, enterprise sites, however you refer to it. They've used that and built their open data portal. As you see, they've added their own logo here. They've customized the domain right here to basically suit their requirements. And if you scroll down here, you can even search for data sets if you're looking for something specific, something particular. And you can also link to other pages and apps that you've created. So as we see, DC has built a bunch of apps using their open data, and they've linked all of that together. There are a few data initiatives that DC is running by themselves that they've also linked to on their open data site. And then in case you want to browse data by a particular theme or a particular category, you can also do that from these links right here. So this is one of my favorite open data sites, also because I use it a lot. So let's maybe look deeper into one of these categories and see what they offer. So let's start with something relaxed, such as cultural and society. So now that we've gone within a category of data sets, we see each data set, we see what type they are in case you're looking for something specific such as feature layers or maybe like applications or site pages. So you get to see what type it is. You see when it was last updated or last modified. So you know how recent it is in case you're looking for maybe older data or something that's more current and newly updated. You get to see the rows, the size of the data set. You can even filter data sets based on the content type, that's feature layer, hub page, web mapping application. You can also filter them by specific tags. And again, you can also filter data based, or you can sort data based on relevance, or maybe the ones that were most recently modified or updated, or even based on names, or something that matches the search result exactly, or that contains the search result. So the search query, I'm sorry. So this basically is open data, and then when you go within a particular data set, you get to see all the attributes, some of these fields that basically can be charted, but some of these fields that can be charted can be seen here to get an idea of what these data sets entail. You can also look at the table in case you want to get a deeper look, a deeper understanding of what the data table entails. So as we see here, these are the columns and these are the first 10 rows of the data set in order to know what you're working with. When you go into API Explorer, you get the feature service URL for the API in case you wish to make API calls to this particular data set. You can then even download it in various formats. So as a spreadsheet, a shapefile, there are also ways of making several API calls. So maybe to extract your data in a GeoJSON format or a GeoService. So this is the structure, the layout that open data follows for each data set. We'll even look at it for another example. And basically what open data lets you do, or what Hub Basic lets you do, is lets you create an open data portal for yourself. Let's actually do one from scratch and see what it looks like or how the process works. So to do that, you basically need to go into your AGOL organization. Once you sign in, you basically go into groups and you create an open data group for yourself. Let's look at how that works. So maybe you just create a group and let's give it a name, maybe Dev Summit Demo. And tags, let's say test, for instance. And you can also customize who gets to view this. That is, if you want to make your open data site publicly accessible to everybody, like the way DC has done, as we just saw here. I did not have to sign in to use and view their data. So you can control who gets to see your data, who gets to see it, who gets to access it and extract it. Who can join this group? So again, this is something that you can control based on your requirements. Let's leave it with the default setting that only those invited by the group manager. Who can contribute content? Again, based on your requirements, you can customize this. If it's something you feel only the group owners should access and only they have the authority to add and update data, you can toggle this right here. What items in the group can its members update? So only their own items or all the items based on your specific requirements. I'm going to go with the default settings now for the sake of this demo. Although one thing that you must make note of is if you're making a group for an open data site, this checkbox right here needs to be enabled, which reads allow this group to be accessed in open data sites. Unless this particular group is not toggled, you basically cannot really create an open data site. So let's create group. Now that we've created this group, let's add content to it. So adding content to it is basically just going into your content, looking for data sets. So let's see, maybe I want to add maybe hospitals in DC and wards of DC. And yeah, let's even throw in neighborhoods. So currently I'm adding 3 layers, three data sets to this particular group. Adding data sets to the group is as easy as clicking on share, access. So as we see, my data sets are publicly shared, but in order to add it to the group, I just need to select my open data group here. Again, make note that if you have checked that checkbox that says make this an open data group, it will have the open data tag right here. And once you see that, you know that this is a group that can be added to your open data site. So I click OK, it's shared successfully. Now let's go to Hub and create a site that contains this open data. Doing that again is extremely straightforward. Now that you have data in your AGOL organization, you just basically log into hub.arcgis.com. You can even add data to your enterprise organization for that matter and link it to your, you can even add data to your enterprise org, that's your portal, and then link it to a site. And let's maybe go into sites and create a new site. So right here. So since a name is required, maybe let's give something like testing dev summit demo. Actually, let's and you can customize the domain of your site. Maybe let's give it a similar name. So dev summit demoing for that matter. And if you have Google Analytics, you can also add that code right here so that you can get notified personally of the community's involvement with your site, of the way people are interacting with your site. You set extent. Since we are adding data for Washington, DC, we don't need to change this extent. And then maybe go ahead, click next. This sets the default base maps. It's saving our changes. Now it gives us a list of the available open data groups that you can add to this particular site. I'm going to go ahead and look for my group, that is Dev Summit. There. Now that I have found it, I click on add. Once it adds it, you see it in the selected groups pane right here. You then click on next, and there it takes you to your site editor. Once you are within your site editor, you have a lot of options to customize this site. As we saw previously here with DC's site, you can customize your header, you can customize the logo the way you like it. So those settings would be right here. You can change the name of this site. Like this reads Esri R&D Center. We could change it to Demo for Dev Summit. And there, you see it getting updated right away. You can add a logo to your particular site. If you go back, there are a bunch of options available now in the layout. So if you have social media that you'd like to link to your site, the way DC has done right here, you can do that as well. So you can link to your social media accounts from here. If you have a live video or even a video sitting on YouTube, you can link that to your site as well. You can add a bunch of other capabilities. You can link to a web map, a chart. We will now try linking it to the open data that we've added in our group. So for that, we'll just add a gallery card, maybe right here. Oops, I'm sorry. Maybe right here below find data. So as you see here, once you add a gallery card, it gives you the option of what kind of content you'd like to show up here. So as we saw right here on DC's site, they've linked it to their apps. We are going to link it to the data sets, but you have the option of linking it to web maps, other pages you've created off of this site, maybe documents in case you want to add those. We will select data sets. And as you see, it automatically populated it with the data sets from our group. We have 3 data sets now, whereas this gallery card shows 4. So we can change that and maybe reduce it down to 3. And there, it has just shown the 3 data sets that we have in our group currently. Once done, we go back, we click on save. Once it's done saving, you can click on view to verify if your site looks the way you'd like it to. So it has saved our title for the site. It's also brought in a gallery card with our data sets. So basically, this is just a starting point for how it's done, but there are a lot of options, a lot of customization ideas. It's just basically you being creative and customizing your site the way you'd like, and to represent and to basically provide data to your data consumers the way you'd like. So now that we've seen how basic or open data works, now let's go and see what can be done with these data sets. So as we saw here, we've added hospitals for DC, we've added wards, that is a boundary for DC, we've added neighborhood clusters, which is more like a boundary that the citizens understand. So let's go back and see what can be done with this data. So Hub basically defines data used within Hub as indicators. Indicators are supposed to be key data sets that measure performance of a city and provide context and insights. So sure, data that you add to your open data is data, but once you're consuming it, you're using it within an initiative or within an app, we call it indicators, because then it's not just a data set, it gives you information, it provides context about what you're working with. It's meant to give you some value, give you insights of the current data set or initiative. So let's try and understand indicators some more. We've defined a categorization for indicators. It's broadly divided into measures, places, and boundaries. Measures are basically data sets that span across space and time, and they provide information in the form of trends or comparisons or outliers. So these would be data sets normally that give you information of an occurrence basically across space and time. The examples that I've provided here are crime, crashes. Other popular examples could be service requests, that's 311 calls and requests. All these data sets basically give you information about something happening, be it a criminal incident or a street crash. It's about something happening at a particular time, at a particular place. Normally, you can think of these as point-shaped files. Sure, there could be some exceptions, but normally they would be point-shaped files that give you information about an occurrence of an event. Another indicator type is places. This places in a very simple format or in a very simple version are just basically important locations that provide some kind of public service. The examples I've added here are schools and hospitals. You can also think of places as maybe police stations for that matter, or even like transit stops, public transit stops. So any place, any location that provides some kind of service is titled as place. Is any such data set is categorized as a place indicator. Boundaries, on the other hand, are areas of administrative, operational, or conceptual limit or within a city or a town. So as we see here, counties, neighborhoods, these are considered as boundaries. So boundaries could be considered as perhaps polygon-shaped files. So broadly speaking, data sets once consumed within a particular initiative, or once consumed within an application, or once consumed with an intent of providing you context, providing you value, giving you more information about what you're looking at and what meaning you're supposed to draw out of it, is titled as indicators within Hub's context. Indicators are broadly divided into three categories. That's measures, places, and boundaries. Measures indicate an occurrence of an event in space and time. Places indicate a location, providing some kind of service. And boundaries are just areas spanning across the boundaries or limits of a particular place. So now that we've understood what each data set does, or we've understood what each indicator does or what it looks like, let's go and see what basic analysis can be performed with each. Measure, for instance. You can draw insights, you can draw value from these data sets in terms of maps, and as well as like textual information, textual data that can be aggregated, that can be computed after some kinds of analyses. So for a measure, the example we see on screen here is for the crime data in DC. So as we see, this is a hotspot analysis as the map shows. Right here around downtown DC and a little spreading outwards away from downtown is where you see high spots or high occurrence of crime. And as you go away, these light, I hope you can see the colors on the screen, but these light blue spots that we see around here, the light blue spots that you see around here are basically indicating low crime zones, that is zones with lower occurrence of crime. And the white spots that we see, that is the plain white spots, are basically areas where there is no real correlation between area and occurrence of crime. So while the red indicates hot spots, the blue indicates cold spots, if that makes sense. So given a measure that is information across space and time, you can create a hotspot analysis, you can create a space-time cluster, space-time analysis. Also, as we see right here on the left, you can compute occurrence of crime over a span of time, that is over the last year, for example, over the last 6 months, the last week for that matter. So you can compute occurrence of an event, occurrence of a measure across a span of time. You can also calculate frequency per month. So if I'm looking at criminal incidents in DC across 2018, for instance, I can even calculate frequency per month. That gives me an insight, that gives me some kind of context about whether maybe holiday season or maybe perhaps like seasonal change kind of influence criminal activity. That's something maybe I could just eyeball looking at a chart, giving those details to us. Another thing you can compute is crime per capita. So for each particular sub-boundary here, so as we see, each of these sub-boundaries is a neighborhood of DC. So for each neighborhood, based on the number of people, I can calculate crime per capita, that is crime per person, just to understand if there are certain pockets that are very that are highly crime heavy or that are criminal activity intensive. Also, you can do spatial temporal analysis, like as I just showed you, there's a hotspot analysis. You can even do a space-time cluster to see how criminal activity maybe changes over time. The second category of indicator that we looked at was place. Place, as we saw, is basically a location providing some service. So right here, as we see, right here as we see, a place basically can have service areas around it. Service areas basically are not buffers. That's one difference I'd like to make here. A service area is an area, like these are service areas for walking time. So service areas can be considered as areas in this case that can be reached by a 10-minute walk around each of these schools. So each of these points are schools in DC, and we are trying to map out areas that can be reached reached within a 10-minute walk from each of these schools. As you notice, the service areas don't really look circular or proper like a buffer, because while a buffer just draws a 10-minute radius around your charts an area based on a 10-minute radius around your particular location, what a service area does here is it maps out a particular area that is walkable. Not every highway, for example, is walkable, or there are certain streets maybe that are not walking friendly. So for that reason, service areas provide more context, they provide more value as opposed to buffer around a particular place. So once you create a service area map around your places, then you can also give, as I said, textual information such as total number of schools in a particular city or town. You can even provide details of a particular school. So if I'm interested in one particular school, I can even pull up specific details about it, such as its address, a good contact information, maybe the capacity of the school, how old the school is, and other details. You can even provide textual information such as mean count of students that have enrolled in schools. So an average number of students that enroll in schools in over a year in a particular city. Then you can also pull up schools with minimum or maximum capacity. That is schools that take in a large number or a really tiny number of students. So a lot of value can be drawn from places as an indicator as well. Moving on to maybe boundaries. Boundaries are basically, as I said, polygon shape files, either denoting administrative, operational, or conceptual boundaries for a particular city or town or geography for that matter. Like this particular boundary shapefile that we notice is neighborhoods of DC, and then what you can get out of this as textual information is total number of neighborhoods, maybe population for each neighborhood. As we see in the map here, this is just a simple choropleth map denoting population within each neighborhood of DC. So while you can eyeball it as a map, you can also pull up the exact numbers for each neighborhood. And then now, merging boundaries with our measures or places, you could get the percentage of crime in each neighborhood. You could even pull up number of schools in each neighborhood. So this is how analysis can be done with each indicator type, each data set, if you may, based on the category of indicator or the category of data set that you're working with. Also, we could pull up a dashboard showing a few charts. So let's assume you want to see types of crime based on the frequency of occurrence. So as we saw a hotspot map for crime, now if you want to chart out the types of crime, as we see here in this chart, the highest occurrence is the highest occurrence of criminal activity is of type theft. The second highest is auto theft. So this is for DC in the year 2016. You can even create charts for places as we see in the second chart here. This is a scatter chart for capacity of a school versus neighborhood population. So for each neighborhood, the population has been computed, and then you're charting that against the capacity of a school to see if your schools can enroll people as proportionate to the population of that neighborhood. And the size of the bubble here represents the number of students. So as you see, this one chart actually takes into account 3 different variables within your analysis. So now that we've seen basically how open data works, and then how you can think of your open data and how you can build analysis off of it, now let's take a look at initiatives and templates. So let's go back to Hub. The way I like to think of initiatives is, sure, open data is great. It's very useful to put it out there. It's great to know that there are cities, there are towns, there are local governments that are putting data out for consumption for people to use, to understand, and draw meaning out of it. But again, there are very few people who would consume open data and and consume it as citizen scientists and build the analysis that we just saw. Most people do not understand data and shapefiles and GeoJSONs. They understand issues, they understand policies, they understand goals, they understand change occurring in a particular geography. So if a place if a city is claiming to maybe reduce street accidents or street accident fatalities, and if they can prove with numbers that change has been made, that the policy changes that they're making, the data-driven changes that they're making actually have reduced the number of street accident fatalities, that is something that people understand, that is something that people can connect with. So that is why what Hub does, or Hub Premium does basically, is take your open data and build a policy-driven initiative, a policy-driven goal off of it, and then bundle it all together in an initiative. Let's maybe look at the Vision Zero initiative that I just gave an example of. So what the Vision Zero initiative does is, it not only has a site that you can create with Hub Basic, it also has the story map application guiding people through what Vision Zero is. So if we preview this, this not only educates people of Vision Zero through a narrative, it also has charts predicting crash survival, it charts several trends. It even has a visualization map here that gives you more information of injuries and fatalities, which is for some reason taking a while to load. But that's the whole point here of an initiative. It not only connects data to your initiative, it also then bundles it in a way your citizens can understand, and in a way the governments can convey to citizens for their benefit. So you have a website, you have a Vision Zero application, you have another mapping application that we'll look how to build shortly. You even have surveys that maybe if a particular community citizen is really interested in, he can come and provide more information. So if he sees any road issues that maybe are not documented by data, he can come take in the survey and report that. That is a very important piece of information to capture and work off. And it also, the initiatives also give you a dashboard that maybe will help you chart progress or maybe show real-time developments happening with data captured. So now that we know what an initiative does, let's look at the difference between an initiative and an initiative template. So I'm going to pull up my Vision Zero, okay, not this one. I'm going to pull up a Vision Zero app, maybe this one right here. What an initiative basically does, as I said, is it bundles data along with other important features such as a survey, an application, a site. Maybe you can create events to get people together and work towards the goal, towards the policy, towards the initiative. So while an initiative contains all of this, every initiative needs to be created from scratch, and then you can build all these elements to it. Then you can add all these factors to it that actually are appealing to people and that get them involved to participate. So this is a very bare basic Vision Zero initiative that I have. As we see, this neither has a survey, this neither has a dashboard. It doesn't have the story map application that we saw. All it has is a basic website and another app that we will look at in detail in a bit. Let's try creating a blank initiative and seeing what that looks like. So in case I want to create a blank initiative, I go here, create a new initiative. Let's call this maybe Dev Summit Initiative. And we create an initiative. So when you create an initiative, it basically creates a few open data groups for you, assuming that there will be data pertaining to this particular initiative that you'd like to add in an open data group. Add that to your initiative site. So once you create a blank initiative, you get a website by default. Think of a website, a basic website that comes with the initiative as the initiative's landing page. So once you want to educate people of the initiative, what you do is you launch the website, you maybe add your data to it, your apps to it, and that's how you get people aware and familiarized with what your policy initiative is. So if we look at the Vision Zero website right here, it not only gives you a background of what this initiative is and what it works with, it also links to this particular app right here. It gives you statistics of the total crashes that have happened in the last 3 months, injuries, total fatalities. So that is a way of seeing how your city is performing in the recent history. You even see links here to pages and other apps. You can report a traffic issue, as we just saw. This links out to a survey. And then there are ways you can get people involved. Like you can sign up to support the task force. If this is an initiative, this is a particular goal that really drives a particular citizen, maybe he can sign up for it and then get notified for it, about it. So while an initiative comes with a site by default, this site doesn't really do much. It's an empty bare bones site, which then you need to configure based on your requirements. So as we see, that same site that we saw previously comes empty, just with a basic structure that then you can adopt and then you can customize based on what you have. So while a blank initiative comes with just a site, what an initiative template does here is it gives you a beautiful template that already has most of the things you need. So to go access initiative templates, you go within the gallery. These are the templates that Esri provides for you. Esri provides to you. You can also filter based on the ones that are in your organization. So those that are shared to every member of the organization will show up here. You can also filter based on initiative templates that are yours alone if you want to work with those. So if we look at these, what these initiative templates do is give you a structure. They already provide you with a blueprint on how you may approach this particular initiative. So we have few commonly adopted or few popular initiatives templated here. So maybe reduce homelessness is one of them, or tackling the opioid epidemic. We just looked at the Vision Zero template right here. Okay, not this one, but maybe let's pull it up again. So the Vision Zero template that we saw previously came with the website, the application, another mapping application, a few surveys, the dashboard. So this is a Vision Zero template, which if you want to adopt for yourself, all you do is click on activate this initiative. Maybe call it Vision Zero Dev Summit. And then there, it makes a copy of this for you. So what initiative templates provide is a beautiful blueprint that then can be approached and customized based on the required scenario, based on the required differences. And the beauty of this is, in case you have a parent initiative or a parent goal of a particular department pertaining to a particular layout, a particular template, you can create an initiative template and then adopt other initiatives from it to then customize it accordingly, involving minimalistic changes and basically following the same layout, following the same standardization. So as we see here, we activated that particular initiative from the template, and here it already has the site for me. In order to now maybe launch this particular story map app, I need to provide some indicators. So This right here gives you information about indicators that are required. In order to launch this particular mapping application as well, I need to provide one indicator. So what an initiative template gives us is a very healthy template to work off of, and then you just need to customize it based on your requirements and your details. Now that we've had a look at what initiatives and initiative templates do, let's go ahead and look at Hub's Python API. So going a little deeper, delving a little deeper into programming and scripting, but getting into another relevant aspect of urban analytics with Hub. How many of us here have worked with a little bit of Python? Okay, good. So Hub's Python API is basically built off of the ArcGIS Python API. What this library does here is it lets you interact with Hub's information model. It helps you create content within your Hub using Python scripts. It helps you automate a few processes. It helps you even build and automate analyses, as we'll see shortly. So here's the URL to our repo. I encourage you to go check it out. Maybe install this package for yourself, try it out. We'd love to hear feedback from you and know what you think of this API, and if there are certain enhancements, if there are certain issues that you'd like us to work on. So here are steps to install this API and maybe upgrade the package. So now let's go and see how to use this particular Python API for Hub. So let's maybe restart. So now that we've started our Jupyter Notebook, let's start over. Let's look at dealing with this API together. So I first import Hub. Then I given the organization account I'd like to interact with and my username. Note that now that when I'm connecting to my Hub, I'm only providing the organization account. I'm now trying to interact with my Hub as an anonymous user. I haven't logged in with my credentials yet. So now that I have connected to my Hub, let me search for initiatives that are created by me. Let's see how many initiatives are created by me. Okay. So yeah, at this point of time, it pulls up an initiative called walkability analysis. And let's also maybe see how many initiatives it says I have in my Hub. Okay, it says I have about 15 initiatives. Another thing I'd like to point here is let's look at length of initiatives that have been returned. So as you see, it just returns one initiative, that's walkability assessment, that has been created by me. What this tells us is that there's only one public initiative, or rather one initiative that I have made publicly available for users to look at. So in order to look at the private initiatives that I just created, the Vision Zero Dev Summit demo, or the other Vision Zero new Vision Zero Florida app that I just showed you, in order to interact with those particular initiatives, it is necessary that you basically log in. So now we'll see the advantages of logging into your Hub and then interacting with it. You can also basically, as an anonymous user, search for the events in your Hub. So this tells us there are 4 events. Now that we know there are 4 events, maybe let's try and plotting it on a map. Every event happens at a location. So when you create an event in Hub, you provide a location for it. Let's maybe try plotting it on a map and seeing what that looks like. So as we see here, these are all our events in Washington, DC, and maybe clicking on one actually gives you a pop-up with its details. Now that you see a pop-up with details, you go ahead and now connect to your hub with your credentials. So now I'm going to log into my hub. Having logged in, I now do an initiative search to see how many initiatives show up. There are 191 initiatives within my hub. So the advantages of signing in to your hub with your credentials is you not only get to create content, as we'll see in a bit, you also basically get the flexibility of accessing content that is privately shared and viewing it. So now let's go ahead and create an initiative. So an initiative is basically an item in ArcGIS Online. So in case you want to create an initiative, the least you need to provide, the bare basics are a hub initiative, the type, that's it's a hub initiative, and then a title. Let's maybe create an initiative with a title Python add initiative, for instance. Now that we've done this, let's call this item and now add an initiative using the item properties that we've just defined up here. Okay, and now there, it has added an initiative. Let's maybe test this. So maybe let's go into Hub and verify if it has added that particular initiative for us within Hub. So I go into admin again, and now I look for initiatives, and I'm going to search for Python there. So the initiative that we just created has been added as an initiative successfully. So let's pull up some properties for this initiative. So I.owner returns my name. And also let's save the item ID of this initiative because we'll need it for other processes following. So to update an existing initiative, all you need to do is again maybe give an item properties dictionary and then call the initiative update function with the initiative ID. So I'm just updating the previous dictionary with a new title, that's Python update. There, looks like it has done it successfully. Let's verify. So if I refresh this page, yes, it has successfully changed the name to Python update initiative. Now let's try searching for indicators for the initiative. So this is a particular initiative I have that has indicators, that is data assigned to the app. Let's go ahead and pull it up, and yeah, we can even see a particular data set with a particular data set mapped as an indicator. Now to delete an initiative, all you do is call initiative delete and pass the initiative ID, and there, it's been deleted. Let's verify it on Hub. So if I refresh this page, no initiatives found. Good to know. So as we've seen, using the Python API for Hub, you can basically automate a lot of your tasks. You can use a Pythonic interface to interact with your Hub. The API is only getting bigger and better, and we encourage you to go and use it and give us feedback with what you'd like to see. Now, moving on, let's try to put all of this together that we've seen. That's indicators, open data, maybe even the Python API and initiative templates. So putting all of this together from an analysis context, let's look at this particular initiative right here. That's a Vision Zero with collision lens app. As I said, this is a very bare basics app that I have bare basics initiative that I have right here. It has a particular application that requires two indicators. Let's look at those indicators. So it requires crashes, which I have already added previously, and it also requires counties that I have also been added and mapped previously. What I now will show you is adding this third recommended indicator completely using Python scripts that's using the Python API and using Hub's Python API, that's the ArcGIS Python API and Hub's Python API, how you can automate the process of adding the third indicator to this particular initiative. So let's go ahead and see how that's done. So going back to our Jupyter Notebook environment, I now launch this particular notebook. So this is the initiative analysis for Vision 0 that I'll be looking at. So the steps we'll be following here are very straightforward. You first connect to your hub, you get crashes and boundaries, that is the two indicators that I just showed you, that is crashes for Florida and the counties for Florida. You build the third analysis layer, you publish it to your AGOL account, and then add it as a derived, as a recommended indicator to your initiative. So the beauty of this particular Jupyter Notebook is it has been built to fit any and every initiative as long as it has been adopted from a particular template. And if you see right here, this particular initiative works for these 4 different locations, that's Florida, Illinois, Iowa, NYC. We'll test it for Florida in that particular initiative we just saw. So to get started, you first import, let's restart. So you first basically import all your necessary packages. As you see, we need very minimalistic packages here. You need ArcGIS Hub, you need ArcGIS to connect to your GIS and do the analysis required. You need pandas because we're dealing with data sets, tables, and then you need zip file. So with the least number of packages required, you can basically generate analysis using notebooks. So here I'm setting few basic variables, few user-defined inputs, and the best part of setting them up right up front is in case I want to log in as another user and do this, all I need to change is my username right here. If I want to just customize, if I just want to reproduce this for another initiative, all I need to change is the initiative ID in here, and then I go ahead. Here, having set my user-defined inputs, I now go ahead and connect to my hub. It asks for my password again. And success. I now even connect to my GIS in order to connect to my web GIS and reproduce this analysis. And having done this, all I need to do now is just run cells below. I will walk you through the process as they are executing. So what happens here is, now it searches for the initiative that we are working with, that is this particular one, the Vision 0 with collision lens app Florida, based on the initiative ID. So there, as we see, it has successfully pulled it up. It then accesses its indicators, the 2 indicators we added, that is the boundary and the street crashes, that is counties of Florida and 2016 crashes for Florida. So you know, it has accessed the indicators that we need to work with. It's verifying that we have just 2 indicators at this point of time. Then given the particular indicator ID, it brings in the particular data set allocated with it. So it fetches its URL, it reads it in a spatially enabled data frame using the ArcGIS Python API. It then fetches the particular column names that we need to work with. All of this can be reproduced for any other city using this particular template, this particular notebook layout that we've set right here. It's now executing the notebook. It's trying to basically fetch all the particular fields we need, given each county of Florida, based on the availability of crash information in the crash table. It's then computing the total number of injuries and fatalities in each county. Let's wait until this particular notebook gets executed. So great, it has even fetched our counties. It has even found the name of the counties and all the other columns we need to work with. It has built our collision lens already. It has even published it successfully. As you see, it has published it to my AGOL account. It has set parameters as needed. It has gone ahead, and as we see, it has even added data to my particular initiative. So maybe if so now, as we've seen, we can successfully publish data, we can successfully add indicators to our initiatives using this template, using this layout. So, the road ahead. Where do we plan to go with this? We now plan to allow textual indicators in initiatives, so that maybe instead of changing the initiative, the indicator IDs and names within the notebook, it just pulls it up maybe from the template layout. We now plan to maybe automate these processes once hosted notebooks is available in ArcGIS Online. As we've seen, hosted notebooks are available in enterprise. Once they're automated, we plan to go ahead with that and automate this whole process of executing these notebooks in the back end. You can then share your notebooks with other people, collaborate on analysis. You can bring other people on your team to come and participate on this and maybe improvise and enhance your analysis models. We plan to expand our Python API for Hub. Very soon we plan to implement the functionality to create, update, and delete events as we now have for initiatives and indicators. We then, now that we've seen that analysis is possible using initiative templates and hub.py, we then plan to provide for complex analysis workflows, giving us much more information and more insights than just this. A quick recap. We saw how to create an open data site. We also saw how you can understand indicators and how you can analyze indicators using Hub's indicator architecture definition. We looked at initiative templates and saw how beneficial they are to basically create a blueprint that can be adopted and applied across other initiatives. We looked at hub.py and we saw what can be done using hub.py. We looked at one initiative analysis for Vision Zero, and then as we now know, data science in hub.py is only going to get better, and it's only going to get more far-reaching. And with that, please take our survey. It's the first time we're doing this session for Hub, and we'd love to know what you think about it. Thank you.